What earlier you mentioned What Time Is It from Field Day.
All right.
And now tell us about that album, because that was a much bigger sound, obviously, than the debut.
Right. The debut album, it wasn't, the approach that was taken with it was kind of different from what I would have done myself. But that was the point of Richard Goddard being there, is that I didn't really know what I was doing. I learned my recording skills, such as they were. I learned on 4-track equipment. Back in the 70s, I was part owner of a recording studio in the Detroit area, and we bought all this equipment from a record label that had shut down like about 1969, and the gear was, like 7-8 years out of date when we bought it, but it all worked, and it was a 4-track Scully, and just really some great tube sounding stuff that we wound up with. So I learned how to record on that stuff, and then I got a 4-track myself later, made all my original demos on a 4-track. And on a 4-track, you have to do a lot of overdubbing, fill the 3 tracks, and then bounce to the 4th, and just layer stuff like that. And then later on with when I tried to produce my first album, of course, it was all multi-track, and it was all solid state equipment, and I just couldn't get the grease into the sound that I wanted. I didn't know how to do it. And that just wasn't the ethos at the time, with the other people I was working with. So where was I? Oh yeah. So we did my first album, and it was too soon after when I did my second album, but I didn't want to repeat the exact same process. It wasn't because I was bitter about it, but I just, why do the same exact thing twice, right?
You're looking for growth.
Right. So the only producer I reached out to was Steve Lillywhite, because I loved the records of his that I heard. And I wasn't so much hearing them on the radio then as I was hearing them in the clubs where we played, because the club DJs really loved those records, right? And
right.
In the New York clubs, the DJs had a really eclectic taste, and I loved that. And anyway, I just thought, well, with the sound of those records, it was sort of like otherworldly almost. The sounds that Steve was getting on his records, they were like larger than life, but just like really interesting and down to earth in their own way. So I brought him in. He was great, and we hit it off really nicely. Did the record. We both loved it. I loved it. And we did What Time Is It? I thought it would just be kind of a nice friendly gesture to Richard Goddard if I did one of his songs on the record. It was just a kind of a way of saying, hey, it's all good. That really was my thought at the time. Plus, like I said before, I always knew that record and loved it. So we just took a crack at it. But Steve was the one who kind of directed the arrangement that we came up with just this weird sonic landscape to it, rather than just try to play it like a rock band would play it. He was like, well, let's put like backwards bass drums on it and do this and that. And, I was completely on board with all that, all the stuff he wanted to do on that track. I thought, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, I remember the first time hearing Whenever You're on My Mind. Yeah. I thought, what a great sound. Yeah. And you could really hear, for the lack of a better description, a maturation in the process.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So,
yeah, that was the kind of rock and roll record I wanted to make back then, which was like a big, like almost takes you into an imaginative realm with the sound, like I was thinking of records like Baby I Love You by the Ronettes, or Just Once in My Life by the Righteous Brothers, records where it almost crosses over into noise. I wanted to go down that road.
Yeah.
With Field Day, but at the same time, I wanted to not use a bunch of instruments. I didn't want to get into big layering with the guitars. I just wanted it to be like one or two at the most. Mm-hmm. So that's the cool thing about that record is it only has one electric guitar, bass, drums, percussion, and then I overdub the solo. It sounds massive, but it's just very spare instrumentation,